friends, this is Neepy the pharmacist. Welcome to the Food Church, where we have all the regenerative mamas, and we are gonna be ready to have some more fun today. Are you guys ready?
Ready. I think today we are going to talk about regenerative meat heals, which is a huge topic that I'm excited to talk about today. So I think that we'll start with Neepy, because her book Farm to Fork Meat Riot made a huge difference in my life and feed freedom as far as our livestock raising goes. And I think that we should start this conversation with her food grading system.
Thank you, Blaze. Okay, guys. So when I wrote this book, I never had any intention of actually putting in a food, like a livestock report card. But when I wrote the book, then I sent the manuscript to Joel Salatin, whom I think everybody knows. And I said, hey, Joel, can you read this manuscript? And if you think it's a good idea, then please write the foreword for me. Otherwise, I'm not publishing the book. And he's like, you're not going to publish it if I don't write it? And I go, no, because probably it just doesn't need to be written. If you don't think it's a good idea, it must not be a good idea. And so he read it. He wrote the foreword, which I'm very blessed that he did that for me. But he said, Neepy, you really need to create a livestock report card for this book. And I thought, wow, that's harsh, man, because, that's like creating a grading system for life, like for mothers, for their children or something, like that's kind of, I just felt like it was a big thing, to create a livestock report card. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And I tried to write it and I sent it to him to review. And he was like, wow, that's harsh. I said, well, what should I take out? Like, what's wrong? What should I do that's not right? And he literally didn't give me any feedback. And if you know Joel Salatin at all, he does not hold back. Like he would have said something. And I said, I guess it's a go. So we went for it. And, with the idea that, you should always be trying to strive to do a little bit better. And you might find that, because even Joel was saying, he goes, well, Neepy, my chicken is a C on your report card. I don't know. And I was like, well, yeah, because he's for efficiency. I mean, the entire focus of Polyface is to show that farming is a white collar enterprise, a business, and that farmers are not blue collar labor. Like that is his main focus for his mission. He doesn't want farmers to be seen as blue collar labor. He wants them to be seen as white collar businessmen. And so, I said, well, that requires you to have a certain level of efficiency. And if you're going to be that efficient, then, and I think eaters out there need to know that if the livestock meets a specific efficiency for, to be able to offer a lower price point or, more accessibility or faster, if you want something faster, then it has to be more efficient. And so you're going to adulterate the livestock on some level somewhere. Welcome, Tricia. Welcome, Tricia. I see you got your internet.
Hello.
Working.
Yeah. Well, when you're rural and you have internet, it's always try this, and see what's most effective for the day.
Yes, ma'am. Well, welcome. We're talking about how regenerative meat heals, and Blaze asked me to introduce the livestock report card so that we can talk about that. But Blaze, what do you think about what I'm saying so far?
I love it. And I try to live by it myself. And I think that we can all do better. I like that we say fast food a lot whenever we're trying to compare how we're doing things. And I feel like there is a real gray area between big agriculture and small farmers. And sometimes that line is blurred a lot more than people want to admit. So when I read your grading system, it really like hit home as far as like how we all need to do better. I need to do better even than just yesterday, as far as feeding species appropriate diets to our livestock in order to get species appropriate food for us in the most healthy way. So I like the report card. It makes people have ownership.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it helps to explain probably to your eaters what you're doing and where you're at and how that is reflected in the price probably.
That's where I think the biggest value is it, because it's giving education to the people who just see the front end, right? Where it's like, there's so much that goes on in the back end that you have no idea of all the nuances, all the possibilities, all the different combinations that could be chosen, and until you start really digging in. And so to see it all laid out is a very nice visual for people to educate themselves, and then to put it all into context when they just see a sticker where it's like, why is this and that's that? But it's like, there is a difference that you might not see just on the retail level.
And I like it too, because it's so easy as a farmer for us to dive into our practices necessarily, and the consumers not, or the eaters to not be as concerned about it, but it kind of funnels both the farmer and the consumer into one area where there's a common zone, where why we would be teaching this is important as well. Plus it allows us to stay off of the bunny trails of how we fence or why we rotationally graze necessarily. So it's a way for them to understand the importance for them and still maintain interest, I guess.
Jill, what do you guys think? Because you and Mark have like this different, I mean, you're teaching and doing things a different way up there. What do you think?
I think anything that helps people be more informed about what they're eating and what the practices mean, because we all know that at the store, people don't understand what cage-free means, or, grass finished versus grass raised, or all of these terms that are on the organic packaging or the packaging at the store, and then to compare anything that helps people clarify and understand if they really want to is a great thing.
Yeah,
I think that the orthodoxy intentionally with everything, like from the stock market to, your t-shirts or whatever. I mean, I think everything in the orthodoxy is convoluted on purpose to make consumers feel helpless and like idiots. I mean, and that's the other reason why I've been speaking lately. I don't know if you guys have paid attention. I've been teaching people not to allow themselves to be called these bad names like consumers, because you're not a consumer, you're an eater. You're a human being, and calling you a consumer is dehumanizing you, and it is removing you, because eating is an agrarian act, which is what human beings do to nourish themselves. And consuming is something that some robot does, or some machine or something like that. And we're not machines, and we are human beings that are sovereign under God. And that takes us back to a lot of other things. But in terms of being properly nourished, what do you guys think when the orthodoxy, first they confuse everybody with these words that mean nothing on labels. And then after that, what do you think about them saying, well, we have no evidence that if you feed Skittles to this cow, that it's not, how do we know it's going to really affect the eater when they eat the beef? How do you know? How do you guys know this?
I don't know how to respond to that without a cuss word. I think it's bullcrap. I think there's plenty of proof that grass-fed is better than grain-fed, and there's plenty of proof, especially when it comes to pork and chicken, that you are what you eat. And so is the pork and chicken. They retain all of that bad nourishment in their fats, and then we consume it. That's why European pork and chicken is so much more healthy than the US. It's because they're not feeding it a high corn and soy product just to fatten fast for fast food. I mean, there's plenty of proof. It's just people don't see it, or they do get confused by the labels purposefully. But a lot of it is people don't want to take the time to know because fast food is easy. You have to care.
You have to care. And once you make that decision to care and you start trying different things and paying more attention to the labels on the food, I've noticed that a lot of people do experience the difference of these foods, right? They realize that lean chicken breast is not the same as a ribeye steak, like in their body, right? Or fatty ground beef. You know, the leaner meats are not the same as the fattier meats. The conventional raised pork and chicken, like largely soy-fed meats, right, they don't digest as well. They don't like feel as good in their body. You know, if they get tired after they eat these foods, but they don't get tired after other foods, it's like little by little, these personal experiences start to add up in a person's life and then create this nice positive feedback loop of informing them on a very intimate level, in addition to hopefully the literature or social media outlets that they're following, and they continue to learn more and inform themselves and to make better choices.
Which is a really empowering aspect of the whole regenerative idea. Pay attention to how it feels in your body. Your gut is probably the best piece of science you have, and your data, your biofeedback loop. If it doesn't feel good in your body doesn't want it. We had to buy milk for a while, and so we tried every brand of organic milk on the shelf. See what was good. Some of it was more expensive, some less. There was only one brand of certified organic milk that tasted like our milk and felt like our milk. So it's empowering to tell people, your body will tell you. And if your body feels good, then the product is good, no matter what the packaging says on the label.
I think too, we're missing like a key component is the process, the fast food. It's so addictive that people can't get away from it to even remotely see if they feel any different, because they just feeling bad is an okay thing to them. And then they just feed it again so that they don't feel bad. And it's like this vicious cycle. And one meal or one day of healthy, whole food, all meat, regenerative meat eating isn't going to let them know the difference, because they are addicted to the sugars
and the chemicals. I want to make it clear that it's not just the sugar, it is the chemicals. And in Europe, they might raise those animals better, but I'm coaching some folks in Europe right now, and they can't get minced meat that isn't mixed with some wheat. They put wheat in the minced meat, and for you to be able to go there and get just minced meat that doesn't have like wheat in it, you have to like really work hard, or have someone grind it fresh in front of you and ask them. Like, it's unbelievable. Because I've had folks that were like, I'm still having this bone pain. I'm like, let's find out what's going on. And then they found out that all the mincemeat has wheat as an added ingredient into, like, if you just wanted to go get ground beef or just get ground pork. So they're not doing it on the animal level, Blaze, which is interesting. So like if you go get steaks or pork chops or something whole and not minced, then it's untainted. And otherwise it's tainted. And I'm like, come on, can we get a break? Like, can somebody just buy what they expect to be buying and not, have it all poisoned? And, that's the reason why, guys, in my book, if anything's in a store, it is below an F, and I call it poison. It's not even called food. It's not even considered food because it is not food. If it has to meet health code, then they have to condition it. And if they have to condition it to meet the health code, it's literally poison. I mean, and that doesn't even matter how they raised it, because I believe that an animal, even in its suffering, if it has the ability to move and walk and be alive, it has more power than, some of the blank plants that are growing in not even living soils. They're not even growing in living soils. Jill can talk about that next week, because Jill's going to be leading and teaching you guys about weeds and the power of weeds with all these wonderful women. And so today we're going to cover the meats. And then next week, we're going to talk about the plants and how do plants gain health. But Tricia, you look like you're about to say something.
Well, through our move, and so when we moved our herd down, we brought some of our core animals, healthiest animals from Iowa, because they were trained to rotate daily. So they would just come to us when we called, and we didn't want to have to train a whole new group of cows that aren't used to rotational grazing daily. And we saw the animals, even though they were in mint condition, go through a period of stress and transition as they changed from our Iowa environment to our Missouri environment, the trucking, whatever. And it just got me thinking. I was like, okay, how many times does an animal move during their life before they are butchered and become our meals? And so, and how many months does it take for them to recover and get those stress hormones out? And so our ranch, we're really focusing on a birth to butcher. Not that we butcher directly on the ranch, but it's 5 minutes from the house, but it's really keeping the stress of the animals to minimal or nothing, because we could see a taste, or we could taste a difference between our meat here and our meat in Iowa. And we got to thinking, we would haul our animals to be butchered the night before they were to be butchered. And so they were in a pen, a small pen, where they didn't know, for 12 hours or 8 hours. And all those stress hormones were surging through their body. And I think that would be a hard thing to measure, but it's a real thing. And I think that we have no clue how animals are treated throughout their life and then butchered, and those hormones that are in the meat are affecting us. And so I'm really excited about the idea of being a birth to butcher, where the animals never leave our land. And that is going to absolutely make the healthiest animals possible. They will be happy. They won't be stressed. They're used to routine until the 5 minutes before they leave our farm. And I don't know, there's going to be people that are going to want to challenge that theory with tests, but I think, again, we go back to, how does the meat make you feel? And Emily is a prime example of how meat makes her feel. She can eat the ground from us, and she hasn't been able to eat the ground from other farmers that practice similar practices. And granted, we're a couple years out from being a complete birth to butcher, because some of these animals did come from Iowa with us. So there was that stress point of moving in their life. But I think that those are things we need to think about as well. So
Tricia's talking about a friend of ours who she has overcome her MS and bipolar disorder on 100% beef. And she can't even cook her beef. She can only eat it frozen. So she has to thaw it to cut it. And she eats frozen beef and frozen fat, and she literally can't eat anything else, like nothing. And
Does she have salt?
She does salt.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't salt, she has a lot of pain, a lot of bone pain. So it's interesting. Like, I know that there's this whole group of folks that say that you don't need salt and whatever. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but I don't think that these days anybody who's been on chemistry at all can maybe do without the salt, or I'm not sure, but for her,
I tend to agree.
huh?
I tend to agree.
Yeah. I mean, we've been poisoned and we've been whatever for many years. And I don't know that we can go back to that ancestral moment where blood is enough salt for us or whatever it was. So yeah, I think that for her, she's just a walking miracle, you know, and she talks about it and she shares it. And so that brings me to that chemical sensitivity, which is the other reason why I wrote the report card, because if you're an eater who has had any autoimmune condition or whatever, and Blaze, I want you to talk about this a little bit more because, you know, what we're saying, this is interesting too to me, that they'll allow physicians to practice medicine and they consider that legit, like a legit way for medical professionals to know things is to practice and to use the evidence of their experience and whatever. But when we do that, then they call it, what is it that they call our experience? What are they calling it? Our testimony? It's called, I can't think of the term that they use, but it's like hearsay or, you know.
Oh, anecdotal.
Anecdotal. That's right. This is the BS word that the orthodoxy has put on top of us. It's called anecdotal. If mothers who are healing their children, who are fighting for their children's lives, if mothers are doing it, then it's anecdotal. But if a licensed standard of care permission asking physician is practicing medicine, then it's just, you know, what we know as medical professionals, you know, serving thousands of people. I've been coaching thousands of people. Jessica, I definitely know, has coached thousands of people. Jill Baker, I'm sure you've worked with thousands of people in your experience now. And Tricia, and I don't know about Blaze how much, but I mean, I don't know everybody's numbers or anything. I'm just saying, like, the people that we've affected, and our anecdotes, you know, how is that different? How is it different? Blaze, I want you to talk about this because I know you have a lot to say.
Well, I mean, I originally got my nutrition coaching certificate just to heal myself. And I can definitely say just from the five of us know. So you get to a certain point where you just know your body more than the average person. And I know, even though ruminants, they homogenize their fat. So a lot of times people say grass-fed versus grain-fed doesn't matter, but I know that my body knows different when I eat it. And it's definitely even more true for the poultry and just the poultry and the pork. I love Tricia's from birth to butcher because that's what we're starting to do too. And I'm super excited because our next cows will be butchered on farm with the help of a local mobile butcher. So I'm ready to put that to the test myself. But it's really frustrating because just like you mentioned about the wheat, you know, the wheat, the corn and soy are all huge problems. And even farmers, a lot of farmers don't know that. I mean, we started feeding our livestock corn and soy because of the ethanol industry and them needing a garbage can, and the farmers became the garbage can with the bags of fast food. And I just think that we all need to strive to raise something healthier than what you can get at the grocery store. And in order to do that, you have to use seasonality and locality to grow what's right for what you're raising. And that's not a bag of crumble or crap, to be honest.
Well, and we had fed distillers grain earlier in our marriage when we were feeding, it's been 14 years ago now. And those cows that we fed distillers to or were in utero and we retained, their lifespan is only about 8 years. So it affects them much quicker than it affects us or can affect us, but it definitely shortened their lifespan as well. And that was, we're still dealing with some of the ramifications of feeding that from years past because we had kept some of the genetics. And so it's interesting to see the negativity of how it affects an animal as well. But you have to own the animal for a longer period of time to see how it does affect them. So some farmers, if they have one problem, it's gone, and they don't necessarily retain that animal and watch and see why they are not able to have a longer lifespan.
Jill, are you guys paying attention and noticing all of that as well? I know Tricia's been really super hyper focused on it because she has been working with Emily to help her, help to nourish her. So what do you guys see?
Yeah, definitely the diet matters. We've tried, and as you shift the diet, there's animals that are made for industrial production, and they don't do as well in our local seasonal grass-based systems. We've been changing out our animals slowly but surely towards animals that do well in our system. We have one Holstein cow who's great on grass, and all of these came out of an organic dairy that grazes and everything, and the others are pathetic. So obviously one gets to stay, and her genetics continue alongside the Guernsey and the Jersey and the Brown Swiss, who do fine on grass. I mean, Jerseys, they turn into butterballs on thin air. Same with our pigs and the chickens, and people really notice the flavor differences. These animals do well on the grass. They can feed back into the farm so that it gets to be a cycle. But not all animals are created equal, and not all of them work in our systems, which is kind of a really interesting thing that we've noted over the years as we've had all the different breeds of pigs. I think we've tried almost all of them, and it really makes a difference. And that difference shows up in flavor, quality, and our own health, as well as the animal's health.
Talking about pigs, I have a question for you guys. The coons that are supposed to be able to be just 100% pastured. For any of you eaters out there, you know, these omnivore creatures like the hogs and the chickens normally can't just be 100% on grass. They need a higher level of protein. Can you ladies speak a little bit about that? Because I'm not the farmer. I'm not going to try to talk about it. And Jessica, I'm not trying to exclude you from this because you guys have your own experience with this as well.
We have pigs. Did you know that?
I know you do. And
I'm
you have a
looking at the
totally
coon.
different climate too. So that is something else that's going to
How
be
do you
interesting.
spell coon?
Kune, Kune.
Oh, they're so cute. But this is so
Yes.
funny. These are furry. They look like guinea pigs, but they're big.
Yeah, so I know that Blaze has a lot of experience with them. I'm sure Jill and Mark have done everything. Tricia's more into beef and blossoms, but maybe, I don't know if you've done hogs. Have you done hogs, Tricia?
Yeah, we pastured hogs in Iowa, but we did feed them grain. It was grain that we had raised because we didn't obviously know any different. I think that's so important to know that it's a continual learning process.
Yeah.
And then we're going to add sheep too down here. So Lydia got a few more sheep yesterday. So we're thinking we're going to be beef, baws, and blooms.
Beef, what did you call it?
Baws. Beef.
I don't know that
baws.
term.
Yeah, what a sheep says, a bleat or
Oh, bah.
baws. Yeah, beef, baws, and blooms.
That's cute. That's cute.
Very cute. That's very cute.
Lamb is really, really high in omega-3, and it's considered land salmon. So
Yes.
it's and Emily also wants to try it. So it'll be a
Yeah.
learning experience. I've never cooked lamb, but it's very complimentary. So yes, we have raised pastured pork. So, and then finished them on acorns.
Raise your
nice.
lamb out to mutton, Tricia, because that's what we do. Because they need to be, like, if it's over a year old, it's called mutton. And they don't start fattening until about 18 months. And to get like a really nice marbling on them, they need to be older. And the lie is that they're tough when they get older. And that's not true. And that's the same with beef. They say that they're tough when they get older. Some of the best beef I've ever had was like, I had an 8-year-old bull that you would imagine should be like hard as a rock. And Isaac was the most amazing beef I've ever eaten. So incredibly marbled and such a docile beast he was. And, you know, they loved him on the land and on the plate. Like we thanked him and thanked him and thanked him and still can't forget him because he was so amazing, such an amazing, and produced a whole lot of wonderful, you know, babies. So he was a good bull. He was a good bull. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Jessica was saying something. Jill, I'm going to stop talking.
I can hit on the coon-coons more if you want me to. The fact that the sheep have a higher omega-3s is because they're grass-fed, right? And so we only have 20 acres, so pretty much everything that we raise is a smaller version. And we really got turned on to the coon-coons when I was doing butchering classes to learn how to butcher. A lot of times people are really, really shocked at how red the meat is when we harvest it. And it's because they can be raised. I don't like to say grass fed because we definitely are forested, and they do get finished on the acorns and the hickory and walnuts and persimmons and all of that. But we don't supplement them. We still, our one on off-farm input is still brewer's grain, but our ruminants do not get the brewer's grain. Our sows, our pregnant sows do get supplemented with a little bit just because I do feel like it helps them keep weight on. But for the most part, we're just using it to attract black soldier fly larvae for our poultry. But the pigs are amazing. And I just find them a lot easier to manage because I'm the one on the farm 24 hours a day. And I can move them so easily. They're so friendly. Like Jessica said, they're super cute. But they have become probably one of my favorite animals on the farm just because they're just so easy to raise, and they flourish on graze. They don't root, they don't escape nearly as often. So it's just been a real easy addition to the farm. But you can balance that omega-3 to 6 ratio as long as you're not overfeeding them. They can get really, really fat like a potbelly pig. So you don't want that. But people are always shocked that when we do our pig butchering classes, they're fairly lean. So not that I'm afraid of fat, but you want that fat to be healthy fat. So.
Are you able to do anything with their skin? Because they look bristly, like maybe their hair, almost like goat hair. Is it useful in any way?
After I saw your sheepskin, I was actually curious about that myself, but I don't know that, because a lot of times we scald and scrape just because pork rinds aren't
right.
So,
right. Okay.
But I am curious about that. I'll have to do some more research on that.
In our experience, anything that's more heritage in the pig world will convert. They do more grazing. If they dig, it's strategic. When we had white pigs, Durocs, Berkshires, any of them, they just dug because they had a nose, and they would eat and mine out of the dirt, but not like our Mangalitsa's and not like the red wattle and some of the other older breeds that we've seen. And the coonies or coons fall into fall into that category too of they're just smaller. Although our mangas don't get real massive either. They can get much bigger, but not like, you know, a Tamworth or something. But they'll all convert all of that forage, whatever you give them, into pork. Where the other breeds, they have to have, like the Cornish cross chickens too, they have to have high octane feed or they'll decondition. But any breed that's heritage can take whatever is out there in front of them and convert it into protein and fat and whatever, and it'll be good quality stuff because they're storing all of that in their body. And they do tend to be more flavorful and the super dark red. So that's back to some of that breed stuff again too. And
I'm so passionate about that. I'm glad you said it, Jill, because I preach anti-Cornish cross so much on my page, and farmers get so angry at me. But I just really feel like if you want fast food, then go get fast food. But if you want something different, then switch to a sustainable heritage breed bird that can survive and thrive off of real forage.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Blaze?
We play with a lot of them. I have a thing for French chicken, so we've done the Bresse and the French Barbezo. But we raised Plymouth White Rocks, and they're a great affordable alternative. And a lot of times people will put Cornish cross against a heritage breed with that type of feeding system. Cornish cross is going to win every time. But you put a heritage breed and a Cornish cross on free range or tractors, the heritage breed's going to win in health and flavor every single time. The Cornish cross can't survive. They can't thrive. And farmers hate the idea of me mentioning this over and over again, but every single time that you purchase a Cornish cross, you're padding the pockets of Tyson, Cobb, Van Tress.
Yeah.
And that
I talk about that on my report card. I talk about the fact that, first of all, they can't procreate. And so nature says no. And if nature's saying no, then, what's going on? I don't know that they can give us as much help as a side effect of that. Again, and then you'll have someone like Joel argue that, well, we know how to fatten them up. We know how to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I understand, but it's not about, he says it's about management. There's got to be a more efficient other breed, like a slower growing breed.
I'm sure Joel has his contacts as far as where he's sourcing his organic soy, but I always question when 92 and 94% of corn and soy is genetically modified in the United States, where are all these farmers suddenly sourcing all of this organic soy? But even if it is so, I mean, it's still adding the PUFAs back to the fats of these animals and making it a less balanced omega-3 to 6 ratio. But I mean, with all of the wind pollination and, the labeling and everything else, I just don't know that bottom line is it's not real food in real form for an animal. But, he's very passionate about still using his soy. So I've butted heads with him on that a couple of times.
I know every time I say something to him, he's like, why are you trying to make it so hard for us? Why are you trying to make it so hard for us? And I'm like, I'm not, but you have to remember he's going to always go back to the efficiency because his only work is he wants farms to be recognized as white collar and they're efficient and it's true. And that's, he says you can be one of these people that raises the 10, only milk fed hogs in some whatever way and sell them for $1 million. And, and so I guess that's one extreme, to have this. And I'm like, can we just find, so for the A grade that I have in the book, you guys, I'm like looking for something that can be as efficient as possible because I don't want the farmers to have to try to find a customer for a $4,000 hog. Okay. You need to be able to make it as reasonable as possible. And so, how can you do that for the very chemically sensitive people who have been damaged so much from all the chemical poisoning that we have been immersed in? I'm meeting these 20-year-olds right now, and they literally only wake up and have some kind of sugar on sugar on sugar. And some of it's not even really sugar. Some of it's just chemicals because they're doing the wheat bread with why are you selling pizza with breadsticks with more bread, have some bread and bread and bread for dinner, bread on bread on bread.
Well, and that's the good thing, I guess, is there's going to be a farmer that can meet any consumer's needs, so I think there's abundance of consumers out there and there's an abundance of farmers. And so we just need to find that.
So I'm gonna stop you for a second, Tricia. We don't want to talk about consumers because
I meant eater.
Oh, but it's different. It's different. Okay. I want everyone out there to start realizing, are you a consumer? Do you want to be a consumer? Because you're probably a consumer, but you need to take more personal responsibility. I challenge everybody out there to take one step and just be more conscious and try to be an eater and not a consumer. Just try to be an eater and not and farmers, don't try to cater to the consumers. If you don't want to be financially ruined, cater to the eaters, not the consumers. Sorry, that was my little bit of my, I was on my little stool there for a second, but I'm advocating for the farms and the eaters. So I want the medicinal food, but I also don't want farmers to be financially ruined. Jill, what do you got to say? You got something on your mind. I see it.
Yeah, I really fall in the middle. And I see what Joel is saying, because you got to grab consumers at some point in order to make them eaters. They won't pay $6 a chicken, $6 a pound for a chicken. They just won't. Nor will they pay for a chicken that's fatty. We raise Freedom Rangers. We also raise Cornish crosses out on the pasture, just like Joel does, because for some people, they're looking for something better, but they're not there yet. So it's a transition. And we are raising more and more Freedom Rangers because we don't want to eat Cornish crosses now that we've gotten, more and more of these Freedom Rangers. Yeah, but that's been a transition for us. Never mind our customers and the people who aren't yet our customers. So and especially for people that are selling on scale to that, on the range of things, more consumer-ish base of people who just want something better, but they aren't having fully educated palates yet.
Hey, I agree that you got to have a gateway, Jill. I agree you need a gateway. So please don't anybody out there get me wrong. And just like it takes time to fat adapt from being a sugar burner, it takes time to there's a transition period. And during that, listen, I still carry cornmeal and grits here in the CSA for the people just to get them off of the wheat. Because, as much as I'm sure that, and Blaze, that cornmeal and those grits are from a farm locally who they've been European and otherwise certified, which, I don't care about no certifications, because anything coming from the government is like lies on lies as far as I'm concerned. But we need people to step down. And it's interesting to me that they can still do better on that cornmeal than they can nothing, because they need a step to get off of the wheat, to get into, start moving away, because wheat is like crack cocaine and you can't get off of it. It's such a horrible drug that, the addiction is real and everyone needs to, look at it that way. And I find it interesting, you guys. I'm doing something here that's important, because from the time that I started this food church thing online, the way that we're talking, not just the five of us, but otherwise, like the last Rogue food event in Tennessee, I've had a lot of farms come to me since then and say, we want to coach with you so that we can have an experience, so that we can raise animals that are going to be better before we do the next thing and really start trying to promote to the eaters, which is what I saw happen in you, Blaze. I don't know what you were doing before you started following me, because I didn't know until I knew you, but I've watched you really graduate to a different level. And Tricia has been thinking about things and talking about things in a different way. And Jessica came to this from a whole different perspective. Jessica, I'd like for you to talk about how you guys arrived in this, because you started producing food later.
Yeah, we did. I'm happy to talk about that. I want to add something quickly when we're talking about transition and sort of helping people wherever they are. I think the bottom line is that animal protein is always going to be better than fake imitation meat or vegetable protein, right? So if the animal eats the soy and then you eat it, that's better than you just eating a soy burger, right? And that's like not a question for anybody here, right? So I think I see a lot of people struggle with like unrealistic expectations, or they start learning about this like, well, I want the best, like where do I get it? Oh, I can't get it in my area, or maybe it's too expensive to have every single day. But it's like you focus on fatty animal protein, and that's step one, right? And then as far as us personally, it's interesting, you know, when you're talking about pigs and different breeds and the soy versus not, where we are, which is in a very rural location in South America, we're in Ecuador, we're in a very rural sort of village, and there's not really such a thing as like what we call homesteading, because that's just how people live here. You know, it's like, it's not uncommon. I think just about, it's like everybody has chickens, and then most people have a cow or two. Loads of people raise pigs. But the thing with the pigs is that I haven't eaten pork since we moved here in 2010, right? So last time I had pork was like 2008 or so, maybe when I was in high school with my parents, like even before. So that's what makes our pigs really exciting for us. It's new that we're raising pigs. It's new that, I mean, these are pigs, like they're really cool. So we're learning about a new animal. And in regards to their nutrition, what a lot of people do here is they buy what's called balanceado, which is like pellets or kibble, you know, just like store-bought, mass-produced pharmaceutical feed. I think a lot of the feed comes from Bayer Monsanto. And so that's like sort of typical, is that they give it to, nobody raises cows on grain here because it's too expensive. So all the cows here are grass-fed. That being said, it's like you kind of stick them on a mountain and they eat, just because the way the landscape is here. We live in the Andes Mountains, so we're in the highlands. There are no rolling pastures. There are no like grasslands. There is no flat places. So you see a lot of cows here. You see a lot of goats, and they're just on the side of the mountain because there's like nothing else you can do with that land. You know, some people, depending where you are, you can grow yucca and bananas. But aside from that, like you put animals up because there's nothing else to do with that property. You know, it's not fertile enough. The winds are coming through here. We're in the Cordillera, which is like where the winds go. It's like a road for the winds. So there's lots of erosion. We're very, very steep mountains here. So there's, you know, the rains and the wind between that. It's not fertile, you know, for anything else. So it's neat seeing the way that people manage local resources and local food production. And that's one of the reasons why we stayed here, because it's managed locally and a lot of people have sort of a general knowledge. So what I've seen here with the pigs in particular is that there is a market in the city near us that we go to, and you can see the way they sell it is it's an indoor market, but it's sort of open air at the same time. So it's like in a big, like where you would have a convention center, and then there's rows, right? So you have your pig row, you have your beef row, you have your chicken row, and then your fish and seafood row. And you're walking down the pig row and you see the patas, like the feet, you know, the hocks, on a plate, and then you see the head like hanging, and then all the organs are, you know, displayed, and you have your ground and your chops and everything, and stuff's hanging, and it's all there. And when you're looking, you can clearly see the pigs that are balanceado fed versus the pigs that are corn fed, right? And so we're talking about like very pink, pale meat with white fat versus like red meat that looks like beef. And it's interesting to me because now I've learned, and I can kind of put it in context, but before that, we would just be walking by and we're like, wow, like this looks good just as an eater. Like this appeals to me. This is like not anything that I want to deal with. I just always thought that was interesting. Now I'm learning more about it. And that's the difference there is sort of colloquially, you know, within the communities, people value, which, you know, you can argue about it, right? But there's the very strong difference between like a pure maize fed chicken and pig versus the balanceado chicken and pig. And when we're talking about corn fed, we're talking about people who grow their own organic corn there are different varieties of corn here. Like you do have some organic and you have some GMO. You have some that are sprayed and some that aren't, that's all happening here, but you can still find, you can find choclo, which is like a more heirloom sort of corn, and you can find other types of corn. And, like there's fields here all over the place, people's houses, everybody's growing corn all around. And so they're, growing the feed and then they give it to animals. That's kind of the setup here. And you can definitely see the difference. We're excited to taste it. It's kind of a long road for us. We have 2 female pigs right now. I don't know. You guys are really cute talking about all I was gonna call them brands, but the breeds of all these different animals. Cause here it's like, you don't have that. You have chicken, you have like a chicken for egg or a chicken for meat. And then the pigs, most of them are pink, but we have some that are gray. They're, I don't know. They call it like.
Be done though. I love everything you just said, because that's how it's supposed to be done. And I think like whenever I start bashing on the corn and soy thing, like I talk about it like on a nutrition standpoint for people too. If everybody were to grow their own corn and grow their own grains and grind that grain, I mean, that's how it was supposed to be done. If you were to think about how much less grain you would be consuming if you were
yeah, you would. It's loads of work to do all that.
The same thing for corn. If you're going to grow the corn and throw it to your pigs and chickens once in a while, then that's real food in real form at a balanced scale that they were supposed to have. Like our great grandparents never had bags of corn and soy feed to feed their animals, So if we went back to that, raising your sheep and your cows on the hill and letting them eat the seasonal forage, then like Jill said, what's going to survive and thrive in our areas all might be different, but they're all getting more of that nutrition that they're supposed to be seasonally, and therefore we are too as an end result. And I don't mean to bash on Jill about the Cornish cross, because I went through that transition too. We were raising Freedom Rangers for quite a while for our CSA, and we decided to stop because we wanted to switch to all heritage and just basically say we will not sell to a eater what we won't eat ourselves, and what we eat ourselves we want them to eat in a real food, seasonal, local way. So, and I plan on going back to the CSA once I get all of that dialed in, but it's been a transition for us too, and I understand the baby steps. But I know Joel had actually said at one of his talks, and I think I had talked to you about this, Neepy, but whenever I kind of questioned him on the soy thing, he basically said people don't like weirdness. Too much weirdness scares people away. And so he said, you can be a nudist and you can be a Buddhist, but you can't be a nudist Buddhist. And I feel like I am totally the nudist Buddhist and have no problem being that because I want people to make those tough changes. I guess Jessica's kind of like the sweet, I'm gonna coach you through it, and I'm just kind of like, no excuses, make the change. I just feel like there's too many butters, and if you really, really want health, then you're gonna make the changes.
So then there's also this conversation. Okay, so for the eaters out there listening, and if you're a consumer trying to figure this out also, there's also this aspect of scale. So for volume, for a farm versus a homestead versus what Derek and Paige Jackson are calling a farmstead, which I like that. It's something kind of in between. You know, there's a farm, I'm going to call that Polyface is a farm. They are a full-on white-collar business farm that is able to support like massive volume, okay? And then you have like a farmstead, you know, that I don't think can manage that same amount of volume, but it's definitely can't be as niche as Blaze like your homestead in terms of profitability. I'm not sure where I want to put Baker's Green Acres because I feel like you guys have this big wheel and you're leveraging a lot of different things, which I love to see that you're leveraging education a whole lot more, maybe than just the food aspect of it. And I see Blaze trying to do that too. But I think, you know, Mark and Jill have just been doing it a lot longer in that respect. And then you've got Jessica, who is, you know, she interesting came from the the coaching side, and then they just are in this amazing place where they can be doing the homesteading aspect. You got Tricia, who is like a rancher, more of a rancher style, doing just the beef. For eaters out there and for consumers out there, they won't understand these nuances, but financially it matters, because a lot of people want to try to compare farms and try to say one person's better than another person. Sometimes they're not better or worse. It's just that Tricia's a rancher. Their focus is on beef. It's very different than, Blaze is doing an all well-rounded, everything from the garden to whatever, because she's pickling and she's fermenting and she's doing every breed and weeds and whatever, everything in between. And then you've got Jill and Mark who know all of this. They do have their niche fortes, and then they have their, mangalistas that they're known for. Right, Jill? Am I saying this wrong? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to show the eaters and the consumers that there are these various levels of things. And then you got Jessica and Tristan who are coming into it now that they were waiting to build their places from what I got out of it, right? Jessica, you guys were waiting until you had your own place before you
to a
invested
certain extent. We had chickens and we had a garden going when we were renting. But yeah, food quality and food security, food sovereignty, like all of this is important to us. And so learning, a lot through like personal health journeys and, this and that, realizing the importance of food quality. It's like, well, what do we want? I mean, it helps, like, we do it like from scratch, like from the very scratch. And the idea is, learn how to do it for us and then expand out and serve the community as well.
Yeah, I just want everyone out there, when you're purchasing and supporting a farm, there's different levels of these farms. And I think that it's important for them to be able to see where you're coming from, because it affects your price points, Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit for them to understand?
Well, and I don't want to feel like anything special either. I feel like you have to really give Tricia and Jill a lot of credit for trying to sell to the public while keeping those health boundaries, because I stepped back to just grow for myself because I wanted to make sure that we were, number one, covered first, but doing everything right. And I think that a lot of farmers grow too big, too fast, and really start blurring those lines. And labels don't matter as much as relationships do. So when you can go to people like Tricia and Jill and ask those tough questions to find the right connection for you, then that makes all the difference. All the difference. So
I know you got a lot to say, Jill.
Yeah.
We tell people to just own their food. Be able to shake the hand of grow your own or shake the hand of the person that is. We know people that sell at farmers markets and they sell under a certain label. And Mark has seen them repackaging Cisco food. It's bad, very bad. And if people come, we encourage people to come. Mark's giving tours today to people because we want them to know how their food is grown, and we encourage people to check it out and know so that they can find where they're comfortable. If they really want what Blaze has got, go see it and you'll know. If they want something more mid-level, something that looks a little more like what they're used to seeing on their plate, they might like what we've got, but I'm pushing the Freedom Rangers so I can transition more to that. And we have shrunk. We've changed our business model so that we can be more niche and raise what we want.
Well, the other part of that is when you raise your standard, Jill, then your eaters are able to enjoy a higher standard and you'll get a higher quality eater. You don't need as many eaters. And I think someone came here to the food church last week and they told me they wanted me to justify to them the expense of everything because they're paying a membership here on top of it all, because we're in the middle of town and we're supporting a lot of producers, not just one or two. And all those producers are coming from different levels. And, you know, most of them are farmsteads, right? They're not really like farms. And we have Polyface as our backup farm to support our farmstead so we can grow more, because the mission here for me is to regenerate as many acres as we can and to help promoting the regeneration of as many acres as we can for everybody, right? Because that I want to reestablish the small family farm food system so that everybody everywhere can have access to this somehow, right? So I told him, I said, I refuse to justify this to you. I refuse to justify it to you. He said, well, if you want more people to come in here, you have to be able to explain it. I said, no, I don't. That is not my work. It is not my work to create your priorities for you. That is not my work. It is my work to shine a light on truth. And then it is your work to establish your priorities. That is none of my business. That is between you and you. It is none of my business what your priorities are. It is not my work to teach you how to have better priorities or to create value for them. I cannot create the value for you. All I can do is tell you that you're important and that you matter and that you're worthy beyond belief, but you have to create your own worth. That is not my work. And don't say that to any of the farms either, because it's actually it's rude. It's rude when you go to a farmer and you want them to justify to you their cost for what they're doing. You want them to justify to you what they're doing to be able to help nourish you. That's just rude.
We've told people, well, you know, they say, why aren't your chicken like 79 cents a pound like we can get down at the local grocery store? You know, that's a meat market. We say, you know, if you can't understand that, then you need to just go and eat their meat.
Or you should read my book. So, you know, y'all could be selling my books. You should get a case of books and sell them and just tell everybody, you want to know what it is? Read this, because we don't need to explain that to you. Neethi wrote the book so that farmers don't have to be trying to explain to you and justify to you. And, you know, like, why are you asking a farmer to do that? Are you trying to humiliate them? It's an insult. I think it's rude. So don't do that. Read and learn for yourself. If you don't want to read and learn, then you just don't want to know. And that's also none of our business. We love you anyway. We love you anyway.
Is really an illusion in a lot of ways too, because I mean, obviously we have the subsidies that make it more difficult to explain if you wanted to explain that. But the whole reason I quit and moved and started raising my own food was because I thought I couldn't afford healthy meat. And now I just know, I mean, it's changing the way you shop. You can go to a big box store and buy some plastic wrapped organic vegetables or meat, and you're going to pay twice as much as you do at the farmer's market. And some people may say that they can't afford $6 per pound for chicken, but I guarantee you, you're going to get a lot more nutrition out of it and you're going to eat a lot less. Plus, if you avoid all of those middle aisles in the grocery store and omit the soda and the chips and everything, you're going to find that extra cash to pay for that ribeye, and you're going to be a lot better off for it. I just felt like for me, you know, Neethi's trying to get food to the ones that can't grow it. And for me, it was more, I want to teach people that they can do this if they want to do it. And then there's you guys who are making it available if people can just get outside of their normal grocery routines and go out and find it. You can always make it happen if you want it that bad.
Mm-hmm.
There should be something for everybody, you know, and all of us that's what's so beautiful about the tapestry of the people with the diversity. We're not all equal and we're not all the same. We're not. And we don't want to be. We don't want to be. That's what's beautiful about it. Right?
Right.
I know I could grow it if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I have more fun visiting and talking about and supporting and then teaching moms how to patty burgers because they're just crying because they don't know how. And I don't want you to cry. I don't want you to feel bad that you don't know how to do something. I just want you to try and know that it's okay, you know?
Well, and like Jessica said in the beginning, you know, having a grass-fed versus soy-fed burger is still way better as far as getting your iron from spinach. And let's all agree that at least we know that it tastes way better than spinach too. I mean, you can always start somewhere and then just go up from there. Regenerative meat is always going to be better than any vegetable or fruit that you can get. So.
And Mark and Jill are evidence that you can never stop changing and growing, even as a producer. They shifted and pivoted. And, you know, Tricia and her husband, they left a whole freaking farm in one state and moved to a whole nother state. I mean, you guys should read about what they're doing. They made a whole big move. Then you got Jessica and Tristan. My goodness, they like moved to a whole nother country, learned a whole new language, and they're teaching everybody how to rebuild your entire life from scratch, from ground zero. And Blaze, whose house was taken away in a tornado. I mean, it is never too late for anybody to do anything. I mean, everybody here has rebuilt from total collapse, from total destruction, and has risen from these ashes. I mean, you know, we're not here to try to get everybody to I guess have a pity party for any of us or anything like that. We're just mean that, you know, just start, and it's never too late, and do something, because the new earth is forming. And, you know, the new earth is forming, and everybody is going to realize that the new currency is going to be caring. The new currency will be caring. It is not about, the currency is about to change. And so it's going to be about caring and not about anything else. It's really important right now, I think, for people to develop their communities and establish their freedom cells, and make sure that you are planting those seeds all around producers, or be a producer or whatever, but, you know, like either be a producer or collaborate and create your relationships. Jessica, who just said that the most valuable currency is a relationship? I think all of you say it, but.
That was not me. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Somebody, Blaze maybe said it. I don't know. I think Blaze said it. I know Jill and Tricia also believe it, though. Like everybody, all of us know. I think we're topped out, ladies. Are we topped out?
That's kind of the theme, like what you're saying, what we're like reiterating over and over. It's like, just do something and start now. I mean, I think that's the kind of the theme that we've had throughout this podcast. It's like all these episodes, we're looking at different topics, but it's like the bottom line, it's like we have today. So like, let's do something with it.
Yes.
And balance is key in what you just said too, Nivi, because, you know, with all of the catastrophic events going on around us, the quote that I've tried to keep the last year and a half, 2 years is grow so small you cannot fail. Because when everything around me is changing and I don't have so many farm inputs, it doesn't affect me nearly as much. My animals can survive and thrive even when the feed stores are bare, because I've raised them to be sustainable on what we have locally. So I feel like that's extremely important when you're out there sourcing, you know, and trying to do. But anybody can get started anywhere if they want to. I mean, my kids live in the city, and I'm always like, you know, get some quail on your patio and get a couple of rabbits, or grow some herbs on your windowsill. Wherever you can start, you can still start. I mean, there's always a way. You just have to want to make those changes. And maybe that change is just staying out of the big box store and going to, you know, I have a hard time, like Jill said, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there in the farming world too. So you really need to ask those questions and know your farmer, because we have a local grocery store that gives the word co-op a really bad name, because farmers leave it in droves and they drive all over the US flipping food and calling it organic, and that's not cool either. So I
had a lady who got busted. She was picking up all her eggs at Piggly Wiggly out down the shore, and then recartoning them and then selling them at market. And so when I was looking for food, when you read the story that I wrote, I say, I would ask, can I come to your land? And it was amazing to me how many people would not let me come to their land. It was just really, and I also talk about feed freedom, what Blaze is saying. Like, there's a whole chapter I wrote about feed freedom and, trying to get away from it. And yeah, it's not, what she's saying is so powerful. You guys should be looking at what Blaze is doing over there, because she's making sure that all of her livestock is somehow able to, like, she's raising what I guess somebody would call sacrificial gardens for her livestock to have all the food that they need. And then she's also using a little bit of it for her canning and freezing. But I think that all of us who've ever had a real garden know that the majority of it is anyway sacrificial, because you can't possibly eat all of it. So it makes more sense to have livestock that can actually feed on that and survive on that. And to get the breeds that can leverage that is super, super duper powerful, especially as these centralized systems continue to collapse around us. As we've said, like, if you guys out there who are watching this don't realize already that there's not going to be any food in a store very soon, unless you're going to be on the slime or whatever it is that they want your dehumanized consumer self to be eating, then you need to find somebody and establish a relationship with them, and don't be hating them just because they got Cornish cross or whatever. You don't even have the luxury of having such an attitude until you support them. And then, like Tricia and Jessica and Blaze and Jill have all said, farmers are ready to rise to meet whatever it is that you're willing to pay for. Maybe except for Blaze, who's like, I'm not doing that. You got to do what I'm doing, because I have a standard over here and you're going to have to meet that. And I know everybody else is, I know me and Jill are trying to save the people. We're trying to save the babies, Tricia too, Jessica. We're all Blazes too, but Blaze is trying to be hardcore. And I'm also being hardcore with the church, because I refuse to participate. I don't cater to consumers. If you're not an eater, you can't even come here. Like, you won't want to come here, because you won't want to come here. So
know that I give Tricia and Jill so much respect. This is just me. I'm not trying to provide food for other people. So that's a whole different ballgame. Like I said, we stopped our CSA, and I give them so much respect, because I wanted to be able to provide for others, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing it for myself and in the most valuable way first. And I honestly feel like I just do better teaching people how to do it themselves instead of trying to provide them with an item. So I totally respect them. I don't want it to come off like I'm better than anybody else. It's just different paths.
Nobody's better. Everybody's doing something in a different way. It's important what you're doing.
And we had no intentions of selling meat again until the whole social crisis happened. And we had people reaching out to us from Iowa, and they didn't even realize we had moved. And I was like, you mean there's no food on the shelves? And they're like, no, there's no meat. And do you have any? And I'm like, well, that's not what we planned. So doors opened for us, and we just continued to follow them and pray. And I think that is, it's key that you just keep opportunities open and not close anything. And touch back on going to your farms. I have always told people we have an open gate policy. So you are more than welcome to come at any time and really see where your food is coming from.
I think it's really beautiful that we do all come from different places and are doing different things. It's just like all the flavors of churches. There's something for everyone. If you want to learn how to raise your own food, we'll teach you that. Blaze will teach you that. If you want to learn how to cook, there's people here that'll teach you. If you just want to start doing a little thing and eating a little better, eating locally, there's people that are providing food. There's something for everyone. And it's what we've all said, just do a small thing, do one small thing, and that will start to make the difference and regenerate the world.
Yeah. Get Jessica's cookbooks because she's got bomb cookbooks with lots of explanations. She spent like enormous amount of time writing out every single little thing, like how to even, which spoon to buy, like everything. And then you can go and visit Blaze on vacation or Jill and take some of their workshops, which are amazing, powerful. And then Tricia, I know, has a lot of surprises in store for people, but they're not ready yet, but she's working on it. They're working on building this. In the meantime, you can get Tricia to design stuff for you because she designs amazing, beautiful spaces. So if you're out there, I'm just giving a little plug to everybody because, you know, all of you are super talented and powerful contributors to your communities. And for anybody who's looking for something fun to do, and, you know, I'm always saying you should keep teaching. So these ladies are teaching. Everyone out there should keep learning. And if you're learning one more new skill, I'm actually on my way to Tennessee this weekend because I'm going to take an emergency medical course with these folks that do tactical response. And it's mostly super tactical, you know, like I'm talking about like military strength, like firearm training. And I am like super duper not that person. I mean, I'm good at a gun range and, you know, but yeah, no, not really that super tactical. You know, I'm the person, but I'm going to take the medical training because, you know, that's more my speed. I like to do, and I just want to see what they're teaching because I know a lot of really cool natural ways to, you know, help you emergently. Like if you are out chopping wood and you accidentally hit your leg with the axe, keep some honey. Keep a honey jar in your vehicle at all times because you can pour honey all over the wound and it will stop the bleeding. It will operate like nature's peroxide. It will seal it. You can cover it with your shirt or whatever and tie it up and it will hold until you get to somewhere where you can get help. Hopefully you're not alone out there chopping wood, you know.
That sounds like a whole new podcast. Like that.
Okay, yes, it'll be another topic. It'll be another topic. I think
that's an important one though. That's the real problem here is machete injuries, particularly in high grasses. Like we know people who have lost limbs and fingers and let alone, you know, cuts and scrapes and whatnot. It's a real problem. It's a real thing.
Let's do it. Let's have that. That'll be one of our topics then. I think that, what else do we want to say, ladies? I mean, look, regenerative meat heals. Regenerative meat heals. One of the things I wanted to make sure everybody knows out there is that our digestive system only can convert everything to sugar. We can't actually convert anything in our digestive system to fat. But our cells are only able to regenerate using the material that we gain from fat. We need to eat fat to make the cells, and plant fats aren't the way. It is regenerative animal fats. So know that. Jill, you want to say something about that? Jessica, Blaze, Tricia?
Well, they're in the names, right? I mean, you have essential amino acids and you have essential fatty acids. You know, there's no essential carbohydrate. And animal foods are the most easily bioavailable, easily digested foods, contrary to what a lot of, you know, historic medical information has told you, re-saturated fats, heart disease, re-cholesterol. You know, I mean, there's like lots of nuance here, right? But meat doesn't putrefy in your colon. Like, and these things, I mean, it's quite shocking for some people to hear, but it's goes down to like when you have problems, you're going to find solutions to them. And we would all say those are coming from the animal kingdom. And then within that, quality matters, right? So that's what we've been talking about a lot today, is that there is a difference. Like not all meat is the same, not all beef is the same, and the quality does matter for yourself, for the animal, for the
Pick it up, Blaze. She froze.
Oh my gosh, she said it all so perfectly. Plant proteins are not complete proteins. They're not absorbable by our human biome, and we need fat. We don't need carbohydrates. She said it perfectly. Eat meat.
Jill, you want to close with anything?
No, I think you guys have all, I think we've said it all. It's all good.
Tricia?
Yeah, I think just taking each step forward, constantly thinking of improving and getting better, and don't look at sometimes we can't look at the overall picture. We just need to see that gradual step and just head in the correct direction. Otherwise, consumers will be overwhelmed and never become eaters. So that's good. If you, I think just finding that one thing, find a local farm and just start buying one thing from them. Like break it down so it seems achievable.
And don't forget your organ meat. Don't forget your organ meats is really, really important. And if you feel like you can't afford it, reach out to butchers, because a lot of times they'll give you fats and the organs and stuff that they're not able to sell. They'll give it to you for free or really low price.
I think I should do a business of dehydrating organ meat. I was raised on a farm and I just don't think I can eat it, but I think I could dehydrate it and take it in a capsule. But I don't think
Tricia, you're so funny. So beef liver just tastes like beef. It tastes good. And I think that it's so funny. Like everybody's always trying to make it seem like it's so hard. It's not hard. And it wasn't that long ago when everybody just regularly ate liver and onions. I mean, go watch the Dick Van Dyke Show and just see that was a common thing that everybody ate once a week. It was just a dumb thing. And I don't know, nowadays everybody makes this whole big deal out of it. And it's absolutely not something I want to entertain. Like, I don't want to, I'm not saying that as a dig to Tricia, because I love Tricia. But I just mean that it is something that you hear people saying too often, just watch some of Blaze's videos, y'all. Go check out her social media and you'll start seeing how much fun she's having. And Jessica has explained it all in her books. I mean, get Jessica. Where's
all of them?
The book is in here somewhere.
Well, I wrote a keto book, and that I was going through this process of debating, do I put nose to tail section in here? And I did it, even though this was like pre-being it more trendy than it is now. And so we've been promoting nose to tail since like the beginning of our business, right? So like 2012 or so. And it's really nice now to see people like already have heard about it before. Like it's really nice. So there's definitely an awareness growing. It's anybody can do it. Anybody can do it if they want to, like you just start somewhere. Allow yourself to mess up the first few recipes, but just get used to handling these parts, get used to cooking them, smelling them. Like it's just something new to explore.
And you know that, Tricia, have you not opened one of your liver packs? Because they don't smell like nothing. They're actually
no, it's here. And I'm just saying you can be an eater without eating organ meat. If I understand the benefits of it 110%, and I wish I could do it, I'm just not there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to think I wasn't there. And then I'm telling you, when you open a pack of liver, it smells like nothing. It smells like the regular ground beef or whatever else. And it's just that you have to just not allow your mind to believe that there's anything weird or whatever about it. It's so good. I mean, I don't know. I think that, but yeah, if you need to cut it into small, like pill sizes and freeze it on a bake tray so you can pop it like a pill and take it, then just do it. You don't even need to dehydrate it. You don't even need to make it so complicated. Just make it like a little pill and freeze it. Sure. And wake up in the morning and just pop a couple of pills while it's frozen. And it's like nothing, because really the texture is what everybody feels weird about. But frankly, I put it in my Vitamix with some bone broth, and then it becomes this beautiful mousse, and you add butter to it and it's even more creamy moussey. And then you put that as a base of chili. Like, and other people use beans. I use beef liver and butter and bone broth, and then I put my beef in there and it becomes this creamy, amazing chili. And Jessica's got it the 101 ways you can do it. That's my one way, because I like
dehydrated liver isn't bad though. I have a recipe on our blog. It's liver chips, and it's just You could, if you have ground liver, you can do it, or you just thinly sliced liver. It's really good. It's like ridiculously good with cream cheese or with like a fromage or any sort of like soft spread. It's really good. It doesn't taste like liver. It's super crunchy, like a crouton crunchy. You know, I mean, it's like a chip. It's fully dehydrated. A guacamole, like salsa, all your normal dips, you can put it on liver, and it has this like weird, funky, like, you know, like an aged cheese sort of flavor, like a funkiness, right? So it's worth trying. That's one of the most like surprising recipes I think I've made. It's a weird one, but
your
it's
fromage.
like really good.
We got to come out there so that Jessica can make us some fromage, and
Wouldn't that be cool?
it would be so cool.
That'd be cool.
My family is really weird about trying new things. And like we were talking about 2 weeks ago, the my child won't eat that syndrome. My husband's like that about anything new. I'll eat the organs anyway. But if I can't get it into my family, I just grind it into because we process all of our own meats. It all goes to the grinder, it gets mixed into the ground beef, and they never know the difference. So they're still sitting.
Yeah, nobody knows. They all know. All right, ladies.
Just being honest about the whole liver thing.
It's fine, Trish. It's fine, Trish. We love you. It's okay. We know.
But the liver chips, dehydrated, that sounds interesting. I think I could probably sneak that one in.
Yeah, it's a familiar taste. You know, you serve it with your favorite dip. It's sort of a familiar presentation. And I think I like it so much because people are usually surprised that they do like it. And then that's very encouraging, you know.
Right. How long does it take you to make that, Jessica?
In a food dehydrator, sort of like 24 hours. You know, put it in the morning and then flip it at night and then leave it in overnight until the next morning.
So are you slicing it or blending it and then doing that?
Either way, I usually get ground liver from my butcher. That's a sort of custom order that I like because it's very easy to mix in with ground beef or make meatballs, or it's just a very nice form that I can use it in, you know. So I usually just spread it out either in circles or sort of in a square, and then you break it apart with your hands once it's dry. It's also super easy if you have a liver and just slice it. And you can do this with beef liver, with mutton, goat, sheep, you know, donkey, any, whatever ruminant liver, bison. Slice it. Personally, I don't add salt or herbs, but you certainly could if you mix that in with a ground liver, or you just sprinkle it over the, you know, the slices. It works well too.
Donkey. Only Jessica would say donkey liver.
Dude, donkey fat, it's a medicinal thing here. They sell it in reused like tequila bottles, and it's liquid. And then you open it and it's like, there's so much omega-3 in it. It smells like fish oil. Like it smells like cod liver oil. And they use it here. You rub it on your chest here for like bronchial infections or conditions. And people also use it topically for arthritis, and then internally as well. Like a teaspoon. It's not culinary. It's medicinal.
Oh,
it's very cool. It's very cool.
Donkey milk as well, right? Donkey milk is really good.
I've heard of it, although nobody here does that. We use donkeys for like rural finca work, right? So transporting gas cans or bricks or food or, you know, groceries, whatever it is, up and down the hills. There's a lot of houses that don't have road access. So donkeys are like a mode of transportation and for carrying heavy items. And then when they no longer work well, they're eaten. So there's no donkey dairies here, but that would be cool.
Donkey dairies. We have a donkey. We have a miniature donkey, but she's more of a guardian. She's like more of, I don't know. Her job on the ranch is to kind of keep company with anybody that might need a little attention or something, or she could be a guardian. But my kids would love to have baby donkeys. So yeah,
that's sweet.
She probably is really good at killing coyotes too, right, Tricia?
Well, if they came that close, but we have almost 11 dogs. So
Wow.
they're gone now. We used to have coyotes really bad, but yeah, our guardian dogs are doing their job.
Nice. Cool. All right, ladies. Well, I am traveling because I'm taking my class. So I'm going to be gone next week. And Jill, who looks like she dropped off, is going to be hosting the weed discussion next week. And no, I'm not talking about pot. She's talking about weeds that we use from the yard for all kinds of medicinal reasons. And I know Lacie will be back by then because she's actually gone this week on the road. So, and I'm going to see if my son will help get everybody connected online. And hopefully all the internets are going to work properly and everybody can have a fabulous conversation for next week. So tune in next week when we'll be talking about weeds and using weeds for medicine. So
Thanks,
for
guys.
now,
Bye.
toodaloo, toodaloo.